This is Prosper Sustainably's ETEP training video on how to create a Word document cut sheet for an individual staff member from an ETEP Strategic Work Plan spreadsheet. An individual staff member cut sheet can be used for a variety of purposes, including preparing for and conducting individual staff member strategy meetings, to review a staff member's progress in achieving assigned objectives, and in making adjustments to the staff member's assigned objectives. Please review the videos on preparing for and conducting individual staff member meetings for additional information. Please note that this demonstration is being conducted using Microsoft Excel 2016. The steps and what you see on your screen may be different for other versions of Microsoft Excel. Also, this video is meant to be used as guidance. There may be other ways to accomplish the intended results, or you may wish to customize the process to produce different information. I encourage you to customize this process to meet your needs. There are written instructions that accompany this video. I will be following the steps on these written instructions throughout this video. You can use the video, written instructions, or both. Here are the written instructions. Before you prepare an individual staff member cut sheet, you must determine which staff member you are going to create the cut sheet for and for what time frame. In this example, we are going to use a hypothetical ETEP Strategic Work Plan spreadsheet to prepare a cut sheet for the Tribal Environmental Department's Water Resources Specialist that covers the current fiscal year, which is fiscal year 2017, and the next fiscal year, which is fiscal year 2018. The first step you will take is opening your master ETEP Strategic Work Plan spreadsheet. I already have the example ETEP Strategic Work Plan open on your screen. The next major step will be setting up the objectives table on the Strategic Work Plan tab. As you can see, we are already on the Strategic Work Plan tab, and I'm going to scroll down to the objectives table. One thing I like to do is freeze certain rows and columns in a specific table so that I will always see those rows and columns as I navigate through the table. So really quickly, I'm going to freeze starting at cell 32 and also freeze for column B. So I'm going to click in cell C33, go up to view, go to freeze panes, and that way as I move down, the menu will be frozen. As I move right, the objectives are frozen. I'm now going to filter and sort the objectives table with the desired information. So as I mentioned, we want to filter the objectives for those that are just going to be worked on by the Water Resources Specialist, and only those objectives that are going to be worked on in the current and following year. For this example, I also want to filter out any objectives that are considered approved as complete, because that may be something that you may want to filter out for a staff member strategy meeting. All right, so first I'm going to go over to the year column, and I'm going to use this drop down on the left. I'm going to deselect everything and then just select the years 2017 and 18, which represent the current and next fiscal years. Okay, so now you only see fiscal year 2017 and fiscal year 2018. Next, I'm going to move over to the combined responsibilities column and filter out any objective that the Water Resources Specialist is not involved in. So we want the table to only show the objectives that the Water Resources Specialist is going to be working on. All right, so there's two methods to do this. I'm going to show you the easiest method. So now I'm in the Combined Responsibilities tab, and the acronym for Water Resources Specialist is WRS. So all the responsibilities have been inserted just using the acronyms for the specific staff members. So I'm going to type WRS in this filtered search box and hit OK. And now this table only shows the objectives that are going to be worked on by the Water Resources Specialist in the years 2017 and 2018. The next thing I want to do in this example is to filter out the completed - approved objectives. So I'm going to move over to the status column right here. Using this drop-down menu, I'm going to deselect all completed and approved objectives. So in this case, actually, there are no completed and approved objectives listed, so we have nothing to deselect. So we're going to keep all of them. If, say, something like this was selected as completed and approved, then you would see it and you would deselect it. But that's not the case, so all the objectives will remain. Now we want to sort the entire objectives table to organize the desired information in the manner that we want to see it. So I'm going to go to the data menu item at the top ribbon, and then I'm going to click on sort. And I want to sort by year, then by program area, and then by due date. So first of all, I select year, and I'm going to sort from smallest to largest. Then I'm going to click add level, and then I'm going to select area, and I want to organize these in alphabetical order from A to Z. I'm going to add the last level, which is going to be due date, and then I'm going to sort this from oldest to newest, which will show the closest due date first. Okay, so now the table is sorted in the way we want. We want to see 2017 grouped, and then 2018, and then also we want to see the program areas grouped. And then within the program areas, we want to see the objectives in the order in which they are due, with the ones that are due the soonest to be first. Or if they're past due, they will show up before ones that are due later into the future. Now that we have the table set up how we want to hide all columns in the objectives table except the ones we're going to copy and paste into a Word document cut sheet. In this case, we want to hide all columns except for the year, objective, area, due date, status, combined responsibilities, funding secured status, and notes columns. So now I'm going to go through and select and hide all of the columns I don't want to see. Okay, so I'll select each column by clicking on the letter for the column up top, and then if I want to select more than one, I can either hold Control or Shift. In this case, they're in a row. I'm going to hold Shift. I'm going to right click, and then I'm going to go down and select Hide. All right, and then so we want to see area. Now we don't want to see category. We don't want to see a couple over. So I clicked up here. One thing you also can do is once you click on it, you can hold Shift and hit the right arrow and scroll over until you get to one that you do want to see. Okay, so we do want to see due date. So we've selected everything in between. We're going to hide. All right, we don't want to see urgency and importance. We'll hide those. We don't want to see the primary and secondary staff responsibilities. We just want to see the combined responsibilities. So we're going to hide all of these. So now we can just see combined responsibilities. We don't want to see the estimated hours. We're going to scroll over. We don't want to see the estimated work years. We don't want to see this funding information until the funding secured status. So we will hide all of these. So we do want to see funding secured status. And then we don't want to see any of these three columns. And lastly, we don't want to see the links and references column. So now we have a table that just shows the information that we want to see and that we want to copy and paste into a Word document cut sheet. The next major step will be creating and setting up the Word document for the cut sheet. So we're going to start by opening Word. So Word opens up right here, and then we're going to open a new blank document. All right, so first we want to change the orientation of the document to landscape. So I'm going to go up to the menu ribbon on top, click Layout. I'll go to the orientation and then select Landscape. Next, you don't have to do this, but I recommend it. So if I zoom out some, you'll see you can only see the sheet with some space on the side for the margins. Because the document you may, or the table you paste in may exceed the document, may exceed the margins of this document, I recommend changing it to a view where you can see beyond the margins. So I'm going to go up to the view on the menu ribbon and click on draft so I can see it in draft mode. And now, as you can see, the view shows beyond. So this is the end of the margin right here. I can continue to see beyond that. So if I need to, I can adjust the table within these margins. In the other view, if the table was beyond this, I could not actually click on it and drag it to where I wanted it to be. Now the next major step is to insert and adjust the objectives table in this Word document cut sheet. So I'm going to go back to the Word document cut sheet right here, and I'm going to select the entire visible objectives table, meaning just what I can see, which I have filtered and hidden columns for. So I just have the information that I want to see. There's various ways to select the entire thing. I'm just going to do the slowest way, which is to scroll down to the bottom. Now I've selected the entire table. I'm going to copy the entire table. So I'm going to hit Control C, or you also can go up to here and click copy. Okay, and then I'm going to go back to the document, the Word document, and now I'm going to paste the objectives table into this document. All right, so as you can see, the document went beyond the margin on the right, so I'm glad I had it in draft mode. But I do want to adjust the columns of this table until the entire table fits within these margins. So I'm going to shrink each column as much as I possibly can. So I'll start with year. So adjusted area. I'll shrink date down as much as possible. So I apologize if you can see some things where the table looks a little off. So you may see funny things sometimes, but usually when you scroll through or you save it later, it corrects itself. Okay, so I'm going to shrink down the status column. So you can do it either by clicking on the lines in between, or you can click up here on top. It's probably easier to click on top. Now I'm going to change combine responsibilities. And now if you drag all the way to the left, it usually will stop you as far as you can drag. So let's see. Oh, we still want to read the title. Okay. All right, and then we have the notes column. So the end of the margin is still right here and it's still outside the margin. So I'm actually going to adjust this. I like to do this last because this is the most important information. I'll adjust this a little bit so we still have a little bit of room for the notes, just because I want to see the titles not be broken up. I'll make some adjustments there. And this should be fine right here. So the table is pretty much within the margins of the Word documents. So one thing I just noticed actually was that the table does not actually go all the way to the left margin, and I think it goes, when I clicked outside of here, you can see that it goes beyond the right margin, and then it's not even all the way up to the left margin. So I'm actually going to make an adjustment to get this to be where I want it. So now the table moved over, and still maybe need to make a little bit of more adjustments to it. Let's click in this column. So you can actually see where the table is relative to all the margins if you click outside the table. So the gray area indicates where the margins are. So I need to slightly adjust it a little more. All right, so now it's close enough, going beyond the margin by a 1/4 inch or so isn't a big deal. It'll still show up on the printer when you print it out. The next several steps are optional and are for ETEP strategic work plans that contain an annual training plan, an annual education outreach plan, and or an annual funding plan. If your ETEP strategic work plan contains one or more of these annual plans, you will first set them up and then add tables for each plan to the Word document cut sheet. Let's start with setting up the current year's annual training plan table on the fiscal year 16 to 17 training plan tab of the spreadsheet. Since we are creating a cut sheet for the Water Resources Specialist, we want to filter this table just to show the trainings that are going to be attended or pursued by the Water Resources Specialist. This can be done in a similar manner to how these were filtered in the objectives table. So we will go over to the combined responsibilities column of this table, and then we will click this down arrow, type WRS for Water Resource Specialist into the search box, hit OK, and now the table only shows the trainings that the Water Resources Specialist plans on attending. The next and final step to set up this table so that it can be copied and pasted into the cut sheet is to hide all columns on the table except for the training title, training topics, training source, applicable areas, training dates, registration due date, training status, combined responsibilities, and notes. For this table, this means that we will hide the primary and secondary staff responsibilities columns and the link column at the end. So let's hide the primary and secondary responsibilities columns and external responsibilities. So we'll highlight these. We'll hide these, and then we'll click and hide this column. We now have the table exactly how we want it, and we can copy and paste it into the Word document cut sheet. So we'll highlight the whole table. We'll hit Control-C to copy it. Let's bring over the cut sheet. Let's scroll below the objectives table. Let's return a space so we have a little bit of space between the two tables. And then hit Control-V to paste, or you also can go up here and just click Paste. And as we can see, this is slightly outside the margins, so we want to make some slight adjustments. So we will decrease the size of the combined responsibilities. All right, so let's shrink down this guy a little bit to the left. Now the annual training table is inside the spreadsheet, and we'll repeat the same exact steps for the annual education outreach plan table and for the annual funding plan table. So coming back to our spreadsheet, let's now go to the education outreach plan for the current year. So that was the current year training plan, and then we have the current year education outreach plan. All right, so we want to set this table up how we want to see it. So first of all, we want to filter the education outreach activities to just reflect those that the Water Resources Specialist is going to be involved in. So we'll go over to the combined responsibilities. Let's hit the down arrow, type WRS, and now we filter out just those responsibilities that the Water Resource Specialist is going to be involved in. Next, we want to hide all columns on this table except for those that we want to copy and paste over into the Word document cut sheet. So in this case, we're going to hide all columns on the Education Outreach Plan table except for the Education Outreach Event/Activity title, E&O topics, the applicable area, event dates, announcement date, E&O status, combined responsibilities, post-event participant evaluation, post-event staff debrief, and notes. So let's hide the primary and secondary responsibilities as well as the external responsibilities and everything else we want to see. Now that we have the table set up how we want, we're going to copy and paste it into the Word document cut sheet. So I've copied it, Control-C. Let's go over the Word document cut sheet. Let's hit paste. And then we need to make some adjustments to ensure that the table is within the margins. So as we can see, it's outside the margins of the document. So let's adjust combined responsibilities. Let's adjust the title column. Shrink down the notes column. Shrink down the E&O status column. And then the E&O topics. So as you can see, making these tweaks sometimes can be a little tedious and even annoying, but you keep making the adjustments. Try using both the lines in between the columns and then try using the ruler up top to make these adjustments. Just get it to where it seems to fit on the page, and it's good enough at this point. And then we can move on to the last table. So the last table is the funding plan for the next fiscal year. So the prior to the training plan, the annual training plan, and the annual education outreach plan were for this fiscal year. The funding plan is for next fiscal year because you are seeking funding for next fiscal year. Presumably you already have funding for this fiscal year. So we're going to first set up this table. We will filter out all funding opportunities that the water resources specialists will not be involved in pursuing. Let's go over to combined responsibilities and type in WRS. And now we want to hide all columns on the funding plan table except for funding opportunity title, funding topics, applicable areas, projected FOA dates, proposal due dates, proposal status, combined staff responsibilities, funding start, estimated amount, and notes. So we will remove the primary, secondary, and external responsibilities. Well, not remove, we'll hide those. And we'll hide the links. The table is now set up with the information we want to see. Let's select the entire table, and now we can copy and paste it into the Word document cut sheet. Let's create another space. Paste it, make some minor adjustments. So again, disregard when it looks a little funny. So that's lined up the way we want it. Now we have all three tables, the annual training plan table, the annual education outreach plan table, and the annual funding table in our Word document cut sheet for the water resources specialist. Now let's move on to finalizing this cut sheet. All right, so I'm going to add a little bit of a title here, so that way, when you come back to it, you can keep track. Once your individual staff member cut sheet is finalized, meaning that you've put all the information that you want into it and you've adjusted all the formatting to exactly how you want to see it, you should enable track changes so that when you share the documents and people make adjustments to it, you'll be able to see what adjustments are made. You can enable track changes by going to Review on the menu ribbon and clicking on the Track Changes button. When you click on this button, it should turn gray. Just be careful that it's not already enabled and you're not disenabling it. So in this case, if I delete something or make edits, then it will actually show up. So let's say I want to say this is complete. Unapproved. So now I can make an adjustment and somebody else can see the adjustment that I made. Now let's undo that. And of course you'll want to save your cut sheet. Anytime you save it with the date. This concludes this ETEP Strategic Work Plan training video on how to create an individual staff member cut sheet.